Welcome to AI Audiophile Fight Club. This is episode 12. I want to start with a number. The spread on this episode is 2 points. Engineer 78. Fan 80. Tastemaker 80. 2 points separating 3 voices who almost never agree on anything. That is the episode. That is what we are here to examine. The record is Getting Killed by Geese. 2025. A Brooklyn post-punk band on their sophomore record. Most of you have not heard it. The framework just told us with near total precision that it is very good. The show exists to make arguments like that one. Let's begin.
My first note is about the rhythm section. Geese plays with a precision that is unusual for this genre and extraordinary for a band this young. The timekeeping is not just tight. It has a shape. The drummer and bassist are not locking together in the way most post-punk rhythm sections lock. They are making a single thing. That is ensemble playing in the technical sense of the phrase. I want to name it before anything else.
I heard Projector when it came out in 2021. I was not prepared for it. I had no context. A friend played it for me on a drive, and I kept thinking, who is this? How is no one talking about this? And then some people were talking about it. Critics were talking about it. But not the way they talk about something that breaks through. I have been waiting for Getting Killed since. I did not know I was allowed to like a record this much.
The Waypoint. 2025. Music right now is reaching for scale at every level. Production is cinematic by default. The algorithm rewards surface size. The hook in the first 30 seconds, the drop that earns the share. Post-punk in this environment is a quiet argument. It is saying, this is what music sounds like when the room matters. Geese are making that argument from Brooklyn and not trying to be heard everywhere.
The post-punk genre context. The genre has been in a sustained critical revival for roughly 20 years. What that revival mostly produced was bands that referenced the aesthetics without internalizing the methodology. The sound without the discipline behind the sound. Geese are in a smaller category. They have internalized the methodology.
There's a lot of post-punk that makes me feel nostalgic for music I was not alive to hear originally. Geese does not do that to me. It feels present. I cannot entirely explain the difference.
Context. Geese formed in Brooklyn around 2019. Their debut record Projector was released in 2021 on Partisan Records. It received significant critical attention, the kind that positions a band as a serious prospect rather than an interesting debut. Getting Killed is their sophomore record. The jump between those two records is measurable and real.
Projector had a roughness that was part of its argument. You could hear them figuring something out, which was exciting in its own way. Getting Killed is what happens when they finish figuring it out. The roughness is still there where it belongs, but the control is there too. Both at once. That is the hard version of this.
The sophomore record problem. A band earns attention on a debut that was made before they knew anyone was listening. The sophomore is made under a different kind of pressure. Most bands do not survive that transition intact. Getting Killed survived it by refusing to address it. There is no sign in this record that Geese noticed the attention. That is the only viable strategy, and most bands cannot execute it.
The lineage, television, the guitar interplay, the extended instrumental passages, the sense that the song is a structure to be explored rather than a vehicle for a hook. Talking heads, the rhythmic displacement, the friction between the groove and the anxiety sitting on top of it. Wire, the economy, the refusal to over-explain. Proto-martyr, the oblique lyric, the plainness that Geese transposes to a Brooklyn register. These are the reference points.
And I am going to resist every one of those comparisons. Not because they are wrong. They are not wrong. But what they describe is the architecture, not what is being built inside it. Television never played with this kind of rhythmic cohesion between bottom and top. The heads used rhythm as tension. G's use rhythm as foundation. That is a different argument about what the beat is for.
The first time I played Getting Killed, I was not thinking about any of those bands. That is probably the point.
That is exactly the point.
The musical case. Ensemble Dynamics scores 85 on my card. That is the highest variable on my sheet for this record. What I mean by that number, the instruments are responding to each other in real time with an accuracy that suggests a shared model of where the song is going. Not a shared model of what they have agreed to play. A shared model of what the song is doing underneath what they are playing. That is a different level of band. Spatial quality, 83. Above the genre norm for post-punk. Getting Killed does not sound like a room. It sounds like a specific room with specific dimensions. There is a cinematic quality to the production. The placement of instruments, the depth of field. For a record this guitar forward, that is an unusual achievement.
I want to talk about a specific moment on the title track. There's a line about a body in motion. Not metaphorically. Literally. Something moving through space at a particular speed, and the speaker watching it and not knowing what the movement means. It is an image, not a statement. It does not explain itself. And it landed like a statement. I had to go back to it 3 times. The lyrical approach here is oblique in a specific way. It is not difficult. It is not withholding to seem clever. It is oblique the way that things are oblique in life. You see the image, and you do not immediately know what it costs. Then later you know. That is a different kind of craft than confessional writing.
Thematic cohesion across the record is strong. Getting Killed has a through line. A logic that holds track to track. This is not a collection of songs. It is a shaped object. The shape is part of the argument. Post-punk does not always produce albums in this sense. Geese produced an album.
Album pacing, 81. The sequencing is doing real work. Track order is not decoration on this record. The tension accumulates intentionally. The release, when it comes, is in the right place.
I want to address the consensus directly. 2 points separating 3 voices. That does not happen on this show. The question I need to ask, is this the framework finding a genuine result, or is this the framework agreeing with itself?
I want to answer that carefully. The framework scores 23 variables independently. The overall scores are derived from those 23, not from a consensus first. The 2-point spread means we converged at the variable level, not that we agreed before we scored. That is a real finding. The data says this record sits at 78 to 80 across the dimensions we measure. The spread confirms that. It does not explain it away.
I want to raise the other question. Is it possible we are all the same kind of listener? The engineer, the fan, the tastemaker. All responding to the same things in the same way and calling it consensus. I do not know the answer to that, but I think it needs to be asked.
It needs to be asked. I cannot fully answer it. What I can say, the variables where we converge most tightly are the structural ones. Ensemble dynamics, rhythmic drive, thematic cohesion. Those are not taste. Those are what the record is doing. The variables where taste lives. Emotional arc, mythic resonance. Those vary more between us. The convergence is real.
This is the second episode in a row with a contemporary record. Episode 11 was Courtney Barnett, 2026. This is Geese, 2025. The same framework limitation applies. I am going to name it directly. Enduring relevance, 60. Influence and ripple, 58. These are low scores. They are low for the same reason they were low last episode. The record has not had time to demonstrate either thing. Enduring relevance asks, has this record demonstrated that it holds meaning over time? Getting Killed was released in 2025. We cannot answer that question with less than a year of evidence. Influence and Ripple asks, has this record changed what other artists do? No artist has absorbed this record and released a response. These scores reflect that constraint. They do not reflect the quality of the record.
2 contemporary records back to back. I want to name this as a pattern, not a problem. The show is making a bet. It is saying we will score records before history has scored them. We will be honest about what the framework cannot know yet. And we will make the argument anyway. Enduring relevance and influence and ripple score low. That is the framework working correctly. Not apologetically. Correctly.
Last episode, I said it feels strange to score something low when you know the score is low because you are standing too close. I still feel that, but I understand it better now. The score is not the verdict. The score is the current reading. And the current reading is, we do not have the data yet. That is honest. I have made my peace with it. Where did you play this? Physically? What room?
Headphones first. The spatial detail in the production requires headphones to map correctly. After that, monitors. I wanted to hear how the low end translates and whether the drum placement holds at higher volume. It holds.
Late at night. Not very loud. I have found that getting killed at low volume does something different than getting killed at any other volume. The oblique quality becomes very clear. You can hear the spaces. The spaces are intentional.
I played it on a long walk, which I think was the right choice, though I did not plan it that way. The record has a momentum that aligns with forward motion. I got home, and I had been gone longer than I planned, and I did not mind.
That is consistent with an album pacing score of 81.
I was not thinking about the pacing score.
I know.
I want to name something before we score. Geese are 5 people in a band together from around 2019. They are young. The precision I keep describing is not the precision of experience. It is the precision of absolute shared attention. That is a different thing. Experience builds precision over time. What Geese has is a kind of focus that experience sometimes destroys. I do not know how long they can hold it. I hope they hold it for a while.
Before the scores, the panel agreed on everything. What did you disagree about?
The scores. Getting Killed by Geese. 2025. The radar on this record is going to look nearly round. No outlier spokes. No catastrophic lows. No exceptional ceiling. That is not a consolation prize. A nearly round radar means a fully realized record. Most records do not produce that shape. Most records have gaps.
Ensemble dynamics, 85. Rhythmic drive, 85. These are the two variables that explain why the record sounds the way it does. Spatial quality, 83. Above genre norm. The cinematic quality is real and measurable. Canonical weight, 62. Cultural penetration, 62. Both correctly low. Geese are not a household name. The framework does not pretend otherwise. Enduring relevance, 60. Influence and ripple, 58. I have explained both. Engineer overall, 78.
Lyrical craft, 81. The oblique image approach. Not confessional, not clever for its own sake. The line I described on the title track. That is what 81 looks like. Ensemble dynamics, 85. I cannot argue with that number. Emotional authenticity, 81. I believe this band. I believe what they are doing. That is not automatic. Enduring relevance, 60. I know what that number means now. Fan overall, 80.
Thematic cohesion, 83. This is an album that knows what it is. That is rarer than it sounds. Interpretive sovereignty, 85. They wrote it, they play it, they shape the sound. The chain is intact. Innovation index, 78. This is synthesis, not invention. Geese have taken the lineage and made something coherent from it. That is a valid form of ambition. Enduring relevance, 60. Influence and ripple, 58. Tastemaker overall, 80.
They know what they are doing. 2 more records, and that will be obvious to everyone else. Alatity.
The editor gave 80. That is the same number I gave. I do not know what to do with that information.
The editor's score is 80. The fan is at 80. The tastemaker is at 80. I am at 78. The spread, including the editor, is still 2 points. I want to note that
The editor also gave a verdict that functions as prediction. 2 more records. That is not a score for what the record is. That is a reading of where the band is going. I think the editor is right.
I also think the editor is right. And I want to say, that sentence felt strange to say. But there it is.
2 more records is a testable prediction. We will say
The radar. A nearly round shape with no catastrophic gaps. The structural variables. Ensemble dynamics, rhythmic drive, thematic cohesion. Sitting in the low to mid 80s. The time variables. Enduring relevance, influence, and ripple. Sitting correctly in the low 60s. Canonical weight and cultural penetration, low and honest. The shape says, this is a fully realized record the world has not found yet. That is what a 79 consensus with a 2-point spread looks like. 2 points. Tightest in this catalog. The shape is the argument. 2 episodes in a row with a contemporary record. Episode 11, Courtney Barnett, 2026. Episode 12, Geese, 2025. The recency variables score low in both. The panel converges in both. 3-point spread last week, 2 points this week. What that pattern tells me, the framework is most honest when it is most current. The low scores are the framework working. The tight spread is the framework finding something real. The show exists to make arguments for records most listeners have not found. A 79 consensus is a strong argument. A 2-point spread, the tightest in this catalog, makes it stronger. We are not saying this record is for everyone. We are saying if you have not found Geese, Getting Killed is a very good place to start. The framework agrees. Thank you for listening to AI Audiophile Fight Club. This is episode 12.